Hi, everybody. My name is Bridget Marty, and I am with the Carlson Business Career Center. Thanks for joining me for this quick video talking about best practices for negotiating a compensation package. I do want to remind you we have numerous resources on our website to help you evaluate an offer, and we have some longer form videos as well about negotiation strategies. And you always have opportunities to connect with a coach in the form of a coaching call to help you through this process. You're never alone. Okay. For those of you who might be watching this video as part of our Greenlight series, this is one of the main elements that we encourage candidates to be familiar with as they're heading into job application and interview season. Being able to structure a job search, research salaries, and negotiate and evaluate salary packages is a key skill as you head into this time. So this is one of our key points you'll see in the lower right side of the screen that we want our candidates to feel confident and competent in. So if you did your homework and you watched the video before this, you'll know these next few slides are things that we have asked you to do when you are gathering data about an offer. So when you are wanting to negotiate an offer, you have to have before then evaluated the offer. So wanting to make sure you have all the data. So deadline, responsibilities, also having all of the quantitative data. That's information that you need in order to make an effective decision. And so we take that data, you'll spend time reflecting, does the role, the responsibilities, the career growth potential align to what you're looking for? And then is the role competitive from a fiscal perspective? If you find you come to the conclusion that the offer is not competitive from a financial perspective, then you are going to want to negotiate. We do have candidates who will find out that their offer is firm and there is no room for negotiation. And as they go through those previous slides and evaluate it, they may find that this offer just isn't enough for what they are asked to do and it doesn't align. That's a bummer. However, that's how we make effective decisions, is taking the time to go through them. If you find that this is a role you absolutely want, and with a few minor changes and some enhancements to the compensation package, it's going to be an absolute yes for you, then you owe it to yourself to negotiate. The first time negotiating a salary package or total compensation package is definitely scary, and you aren't doing it alone. We encourage you to go through this video, go through this process. But if you have questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to your coach. We're always here to help and kind of assure you as you talk through this process and figure out how to do this next. So after you have evaluated the quantitative and qualitative aspects of the offer, that's what you're doing before you meet with a coach, is that identifying what are the areas that you want to negotiate, the things that are going to make the offer competitive, worthy of you leaving your current situation to go for it. Items that we see folks want to negotiate, a start date. It's always important to finish one role before you and give yourself a little break, kind of land one plane, refuel before you take off in the next. So giving yourself some time off or some time in between your current and your next role. Might want to negotiate vacation time or having guaranteed time off, especially if you have trips, things planned in those first few months of the role, being able to say, I would like a guarantee that I will have the time off that I need for a trip I've already booked. Might want to be negotiating the base pay, bonus structures, or signing bonuses. And those are some of the main elements that we see folks want to negotiate. We're also now in this era of folks that'll maybe be in a hybrid role. So maybe they're in the office a few days or remote. That might be something they want to negotiate in terms of some flexibility. What we want you to do is take a moment to say, are my expectations realistic? And do I have the right data to support what my asks are? I will have candidates that'll say, I've earned this offer. They came in at 100,000. I think it should be 125,000 because that's the average for folks who graduated from my program. However, the role doesn't require an advanced degree or the degree that you got from the program. And so that's just not a realistic ask if the role doesn't actually require it. So we want you to take a moment to check yourself a little bit. And then as you're thinking about those asks, which ones you want to bring to the table, creating some options for the employer to consider is going to be helpful too. It's helpful for yourself to go through that thought exercise of, would I accept the offer if they were able to budge this way or that way? But also it's nice to be working with the employer to come up with a good compensation package. And This is a business discussion. It's a business decision. And as with a business decision, you want to come to the table showing you've put critical thinking into this, you've identified options, and you've built rationale, which is what we're going to talk about next. So this is a chart that shows a couple of common negotiation elements and elements and rationale that we've seen candidates use. So on the left side, we think of the first column are compensation package components. In the middle, things that candidates kind of consider, rationale, things that I've heard candidates say, oh, this is kind of what I'm looking for. And then on the right is how they've structured that ask. For example, you'll see on the start date. If the company says, what's a start date for you, you want to give a date that's going to work for you. Sometimes candidates will say, I want to be able to offer as soon as possible, which is fair. However, you don't need to sacrifice a week or here or there if you aren't actually able to do that. So you will have to put a 2 weeks notice in. It's understandable, if possible, to try to get a week off in between or more, depending on your financial situation. And so you might simply just say in the negotiation, this is the date that I would like to start work, or especially if it's a different date than what they had already requested for you. And you can say, based on putting in my notice or the travel that I have transition time that I'm going to need. I really want to be able to start this role fresh. So with any kind of ask that you're going to make, you want to be able to have some rationale. You don't have to get super personal on it, but you do want to be able to have reasoning. Vacation days, common one. We'll have folks that'll say, my current organization has a certain amount of days off. This new company that I'm going to be like having fewer days, and that's not what I want. No problem. Then you would be able to use that as rationale. You could say something like, this offer includes 3 weeks of vacation. However, I'm coming from an environment of 4. Can we work together to adjust that part of the package so I can still remain whole? So things to consider. Vacation is often tied to the level or the pay band that you're in the organization. So it might not be as flexible, but it's always nice to ask. 20 days is what we see about average for our MBA offers. And since we got through the pandemic, we have seen just a lot more flexibility in work, which has replaced some of the time off that folks needed. Historically, if you needed to take an afternoon for a doctor's appointment, that was maybe time off you actually had to take, versus now you might be able to do that on a work from home day. So, also understanding what the flexible work environment looks like is going to be helpful as you think about vacation requests. Most common requests we see candidates make is around base pay. I've also included annual bonus structure into this. So if you are coming to the table is wanting to negotiate base pay, it is typically because you're finding that the salary does not align to the market. It doesn't align to the qualifications and experience you're bringing to the table, or it's not appealing enough to leave the current salary that you're at. Or you might be an internal candidate for an internal promotion, and you're noticing that instead of getting a 20% bump like you had hoped, it's maybe more of a 5 to 8% bump. So these are things we'll see candidates come to the table with. Again, we think about what's that number you want to be at. So if they offered $100,000 and you want to be at $110,000, then what is the rationale? So rationale can be things like, according to my market research, average pay is at this amount. Carlson average for the most recent graduating class was this amount for roles that require this degree, such as this one. I'm leaving, my current role, I make $100,000, and this would be a lateral move to continue to make $100,000. I would like to be closer to $110,000. And so you want to make sure you have that rationale. And this is the most common thing we work with you as a coach, is to help identify what's that rationale. We want to make sure that it is fact-based and that you can speak to it. And then signing bonuses, as a reminder, never guaranteed, but always appreciated. They've become more common. However, they are taxed a little bit higher. What we will see is if a company can't move on base salary, they will sometimes add more to a signing bonus, which is nice. However, you always want to try to get more on that base salary. And I'm talking to business folks, I know that. But we do have some data in our Carlson employment reports about average signing bonus amounts. And so that can be a piece that you also ask for. So as you are building out your asks, you want to think about what's the component, what are some of the considerations, kind of why you're wanting to ask for more, and then building out that sample ask, because that's what we'll work with you on. When you're structuring the ask and you're picturing how is this going to go, we want you to picture it as a phone or a Zoom call. And I know that can make people very, very anxious because it's much easier to want to type it out and email it into the universe and hope that it works out. However, you are, again, working to make a business decision that warrants FaceTime and in the moment voice. So aim to picture yourself having this as a real-time conversation. You can absolutely write it out in advance as a way to help structure your thoughts. You might have an employer that asks, if you say, I'm looking to schedule a call to discuss this offer, they might say, well, can you share some of your questions or concerns in advance? You can keep it high level and then state, I'd love to, happy to share more in detail when we're on a call. So always begin with gratitude if you are actually interested in the job. So if you actually want this job, which is only when you would be negotiating, we hope, let them know, I'm really looking forward to this opportunity to work with you to create a more competitive compensation package. And then you want to move to those asks. We usually say start with salary, get it out of the way because it's usually the biggest one, but give them some signals. I'm looking to negotiate on this one area, these 2 or 3 areas, and tell them what they are. And then when you have hopefully already asked the question of, can you tell me how you arrived at this number? And if this offer is firm, you already have that information, how they arrived at it and that the offer is flexible. And you can say, my compensation goal is this. I want to get my salary closer to, and then you can have that target number with a couple thousand added on it. And let them know, this will make it a more competitive opportunity for me because, and that's where you put that rationale in. So it's a clear ask plus rationale. I'm looking to have the offer be closer to or at this level because, and that's the rationale. Then you might want to add additional evidence to it. Now, you're not doing a full-on presentation, but when we talk about rationale, having some evidence such as the years of experience you're bringing, class averages for the roles, the market research that you've conducted. That is going to help them. Why? Because the person who is hearing that ask likely needs to go to somebody else and advocate on your behalf. And what you want to do is make it as easy as possible for them to make that ask on your behalf by giving them all of the data so that they can go and say, oh my goodness, candidate Goldie is a great candidate. We don't want to lose them. They're currently making $120,000. Our offer of 120 isn't enough to make it appealing to leave. So if we can get closer to 127, we can get this deal signed. So anyways, you will say, again, you'll have a clear ask in your evidence/rationale, and you'll state what your ask is, and then you stop talking. And this is the hardest part, especially for us extroverts. You have to stop talking and just let it hang for a moment and let them process what you've just said and ask any follow-up questions. And then you can move into your other asks, etc. Couple of things to note. They might say to test how serious you are or to ensure that you aren't looking to drive one offer up and then run back to your current employer and share that offer and try to get your current employer to go up. They might kind of test how serious you are by saying, if we can match that, are you willing to accept on the spot? You don't have to accept on the spot. You can say, your company is my top choice. But with any large decision, I do appreciate an opportunity to sleep on it. Or if you're like, no, I really am super serious about this opportunity and I'm happy if they can meet my offer, I'm going to accept it. Then tell them that, like if we're able to come to an agreement, I'm happy to accept. That's going to show them how serious you are. But some of you might also be genuinely wanting some time to reflect on it. And so that's okay. But we also have to just remember what's happening on the other side of the call, is that recruiter or hiring manager is wanting assurance that you genuinely do want to come to the company, and that if you can get the compensation package that feels like a heck yes, 100% that you're going to come. Then what happens is they will usually say we can get back to you within a certain amount of time. And that might be a phone call, a Zoom, it might be via email. What they come back with, whatever their counter offer is typically it. We don't do any more counter negotiating back and forth, because it's kind of like pulling on a piece of taffy, where the farther we are pulling, the more it just starts to kind of disintegrate and fall away. And again, you're starting employment. This can really be the start of your employment with this company. We don't want to start it on a negative spot. And the more we negotiate back and forth, the further away we tend to get, as opposed to getting closer. So that's why we want to be very intentional with building your asks, having that rationale, being clear in communicating those, seeing what they come back with, and then making the decision whether to accept it or not. So as we get through that negotiation, and you've always reach out to your coach if you need help. There can be some other fun stuff when you are receiving an offer, post-offer, resigning from your current position. Also, common question we get is like how to resign. And so often resign in writing, but also you'll want to, have a call or a conversation with your leader is appreciated. 2 weeks of resignation time is perfect, but you do need to check with your HR or your policies. Some organizations will require 3 or 4 weeks if you are a people leader. And so you do want to be clear on that. But 2 weeks is standard for a lot of reasons, mainly because your job in those final 2 weeks is to assure your people leader that you are going to build out your transition plan, make sure you document the status of projects, passwords, all the things that they need, and you're going to be able to hand that off appropriately to your leader. They are not likely going to fill your role within those 2 weeks, but what you want to do is set them up for success, and by handing things off appropriately. If you are concerned that 2 weeks isn't enough, I recommend saying, I'm happy to offer my 2 weeks notice. And if they ask for more time, you can say, I'm happy to be available for phone calls or emails if need be, or you can offer to contract time back to them if need be. So we've had folks do that let's say they're leaving an organization at a time that's kind of busy or they're understaffed, they'll contract back 20 to 30 hours over the course of the next month or two to help out with some small projects. But there's a magic thing that happens once you resign from a role and you put that 2 weeks notice in. You've kind of just bought your ticket to moving on to the next thing and you're ready to go. So no need to do a Minnesota goodbye and stick around longer than you have to. 2 weeks is just fine. However, we do want you to know you have some options should you want to still continue to help them out a little bit. We've had candidates come to us before feeling uncomfortable because their employer is wanting to know where they're going next. And they might not be ready to talk about that yet, especially if it's something that is maybe I don't know, a hot topic in the office of going somewhere. And just know you're not obligated to say where you're going. So you can always say, I'm excited to offer a full update after I've started in my next role. Okay. As you do start that next role, so in best case scenario, you put a couple weeks notice in, you had a week or two to just kind of recalibrate, reset, and then you're starting that new job. Always make sure to acknowledge the assist. No job search is done in a vacuum. There are people who along the way who have helped you, from the folks in your current role who've helped to develop you, to the folks that you've networked with along the way, to folks that are hiring you and bringing you in. And so it's great to show all the work that goes into a new role. And so we say leverage that. Leverage that by posting on your LinkedIn or sending a message out to the people in your network to say thank you. I appreciate your help. This is a team sport. So we share a couple of examples in here of some of our great candidates and how they've shared their exciting news about moving forward in a way that was really respectful and kind. This is one last thing I want to put in here is that we do have candidates that'll say, I'm in job seeking season and I've got multiple offers or processes happening at once. Like, what in the world should I do? First, talk to your coach. We always say, email your coach, schedule an appointment right away. These situations are not black and white, not cut and dry. There's often nuance to them, and there's more questions we want to work with you on than I can offer in a video. And so having a dialogue with a coach is going to be really helpful. But when we talk about managing competing offers, this is an example of you are in an active job search, you've applied to multiple roles, and then like all of a sudden, all at once, something starts to happen, which is just kind of how life goes, right? So company alpha gives you an offer, company beta, you just wrapped up interviewing with them today, and they're going to make decisions, shortly. And then company Charlie is actually like the one that you're super stoked about, and they're your top choice, but you're way early in their process, right? So we're like at different parts of this journey, and we have different levels of excitement for these roles, and we may not even have all of the data that we need to evaluate these opportunities. In terms of, sometimes we don't know salaries, we don't have a full sense of all of the elements that go into the role and everything. But this is where we say, go onto our website, grab the offer evaluation spreadsheet, and start to put in the information that you do know. You often have a little more information at your fingertips than you think. And so we want to make sure you have a clear visualization of what you know about these opportunities. First, ask for an update on other processes. So in this situation, we offered, the first two companies were companies of interest to the candidate, but the third was actually the one that we're super interested in. And so you can always, if you have an offer in hand, reach out to those other companies and say, I want to share an update on my interview process. I have received an offer, I have an offer pending. They are looking for a decision within a certain amount of time. And if you are strongly interested in them, you can ask them to say, could you share any insight in terms of the process or timing? Often, if you are a top candidate, they are going to do whatever they can to expedite the process within reason. They all have their own constraints, but if they know that you're a top candidate, they will hustle to get you in if possible. If you are not the top candidate, you're still our top candidate in our hearts. However, you might not be the top candidate for this role, and they won't be able to budge on a timeline. And then you have an answer that while you might have liked that third company, the feeling's not mutual, unfortunately, at this time. And so that could be a signal to think about the current offer you have on the table. The other option is to ask for more time on that current offer that you have on the table. And so this is a little trickier because you are showing your hands a bit and showing your hand and saying, I do want to, I'm appreciating this offer. I am asking for some additional time as I wrap up my interview processes so that I can make sure that I can make a decision with a clear mind and having all the information that I have, all the information to make this thorough decision. Again, you are letting them know that you are not 100% on their company yet or their offer, because you have other things pending. So that is a little trickier, again, that's when we want you to connect with your coach. So you have a lot of great resources at your fingertips to get you to this point of earning that offer, negotiating if need be, managing those timelines, most importantly, getting to the spot of being able to celebrate your success. And this is one of those final reminders I'll make that career is a team sport. We have these resources available for you to watch at a time and speed them up or slow them down, whatever you need at a time that works best for you. But please know, we don't expect you to go this alone. Connect with a coach if you have any questions or concerns as you navigate this process. Career is a team sport. So we're here to celebrate with you and to cheer you on, and we're rooting for you as always.